Sometimes you just gotta make it happen. Gonna make it happen. Gonna make it happen. Just make it happen. Just make it happen. Just make it happen.
Well, hello, West Hollywood. I'm back. It's your host, CJ. This is Mentorship Moments. Each one, teach one. I told you we're a village. We're going to heal the total community together. They let me back, guys. I got a second show, and it's going to continue. I told you I have a great guest. My next guest is no exception as to one of the, or my biased opinion, one of the top cops in America. He's known as the Angel Cop, and he's done about 20 years in the Skid Row area within the Los Angeles community. His work is nationally known, and I'm proud to say that he's also my twin brother. I want to show you something, guys. Again, I told you I got the heat. I want you to take a look at this. This is his book, Stepping Across the Line, a Skid Row cop story. This is in detail of his legacy within the Los Angeles area Skid Row, where he's helped thousands upon thousands of people with jobs, with anti-drug programs. He's just an amazing man. So let me just quit talking and introduce the man himself. I have with me today Officer Deon Joseph. How you doing, sir?
Good, brother, good.
Yes,
good.
That's
good,
man.
man.
Let me quit all the.
You're a handsome guy. You look like somebody I know.
You look pretty good too. We must share the same egg at one time.
I don't know.
Guys, I am so proud to have shared the same egg with this gentleman. I am so proud to even just be on the comment where he's going. He's asked me to help him on a few things, and humbly I've said yes. And just those little moments have just been special. And we're going to talk about some of those things, but. Before we get started, this show is called Mentorship Moments. And you've been an officer for almost 25 years, right?
Right, correct.
And, African Americans in the agency that you work for, it's dwindled down to under about 12%. Why do you think, and this is for young men and women out that want to be law enforcement, we need you in law enforcement. Why do you think, what is the stigma that's keeping our percentages low in law enforcement?
Well, right now there's an anti-police movement that's based on fear-mongering. If ever you want to get something done, you have to fear-monger to get it done, whether it's social justice or you want to change anything. And it's really sad because you have to marginalize groups of people to do that. Every movement needs a villain. And right now that villain is law enforcement. So what happens is, the focus, the target audience for this fear-mongering is the African American community. And they've done such a good job that many individuals are terrified to even think of law enforcement as an option for a career that can feed their family, have great benefits, and where you can get in there and be the change that you actually want to see in this world. I find it kind of crazy when I go to community meetings or when I speak across this country, or when I have interviews, and I'm always asked this question by many members of the wonderful African American community is, well, why don't you guys have more black officers patrolling the streets, in black communities? And my answer is always, well, who would want to do that? When there's so much demagoguery and vilification of police officers, what young African American male or female would want to get in a profession where they're the beast at every feast, where they fear their community and family members are going to turn their backs on them just for putting on a uniform? I got to say that law enforcement is an honorable profession. Look, I always say this as it relates to police officers. Law enforcement officers are nothing more than a microcosm of society. Everybody knows that in the United States of America, the vast majority of 320 million, whether they're white, black, gay, straight, transgender, Christian, Jew, Muslim, atheists, are decent, hardworking, loving people. The majority are like that. And if you don't believe that, please get off Facebook, please get off social media.
I was going to ask you that, because who is demonizing us? Now there's a history, we know that in the
absolutely.
past. So how do you balance that with those that who are demonizing law enforcement?
Well, I always say you can't completely live your life in historical context. You use historical context as a barometer to say this was the past and this is how we learn from it. But when we base historical context or the past on the present, it creates a dangerous precedent where we don't learn Like, you're still believing that it's 1968 when it's 2000. You know, the officers that are walking the streets now are 40, 50 years removed from the ones who really caused a lot of the trauma. Like, we're paying for the sins of a lot of officers that walked before us, and that those officers are a small minority. They're what I call they're a minority of individuals who do horrible things, and when they rear their ugly head, it makes my job very hard in building bridges with the community, bridges of trust. But they are the negative exception, but not the honorable rule.
Well, you know, you said that, you know, they're making it harder for us to build bridges.
Right.
But the thing is, you've built those bridges.
Right.
You know, now there are elements, there are bureaucracies and everything, we all know that, and we're not going to speak to that.
Yeah.
But you developed the name in the Skid Row area, Angel Cop. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from? Why? And you wanted to talk about your ultimate mentor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Well, ultimately, I had many names when I first came to Skid Row. Okay. Yeah, some of them weren't very pleasant. You know, obviously, first one was Uncle Tom, House Negro, Sambo, you're the white man's lapdog, you're looking at the white man's boot. I heard all that crap.
Yeah.
Then over time, when I was able to show the community who I was, not just what I do, the names started to change to comical names like Officer Tight Shirt, Officer Bobblehead. I
heard RoboCop.
And RoboCop became one of them because I walked like a robot, and like I said, it's like you couldn't get away from me. You couldn't hide from me. And then over the years, when I was the community really saw my heart and how much I loved and cared about them, how much I revered them and respected them, and how I was able to help put 150 homeless people in housing, whether it be temporary or permanent, get them into shelters, create environments that are conducive to change. I didn't do it by myself, but I had a lot of help. When I did that, I guess a news agency gave me the title, The Angel Cop. And from what I heard, they went walking around Skid Row and everybody kept, go talk to the angel, go talk to the angel. And I didn't even know that was my nickname. And that's where the Angel Cop came. I don't consider myself an angel. I'm human. I do a good job of suppressing the horns, just like everybody else.
So let me stop you for a moment. This show is called Mentorship Moments. So we told you the why, right? But now, through his story, through his journey in the next few minutes, we're going to talk about the how his platform is going to establish the mentorship for you to make that decision for law enforcement or whatever you so decide. Mm-hmm. Angel Cop. Now, when I think of angels, I think of two people that we have in common. Milton and Margie Joseph, our parents.
Don't get me crying up here.
How did that upbringing, tell us a little bit about that, and the policies and procedures, how did that mesh with our upbringing and the procedures of the agency that you work for?
I always tell people that law enforcement officers aren't robots who were let out of a box and wound out to go engage in systematic injustice. That is absolutely false. We're human beings who come from somebody somewhere, and our background sometimes dictate how we operate, how we flow. My mother and father, or our mother and father, they raised 41 foster children over the course of their 47-year marriage. You and I were around for 17 of those kids.
That's a lot of kids.
Just a lot of kids. on top of their 4 children, 3 grandchildren, somewhat handicapped, somewhat mental illness. Our dad, he grew up in the Jim Crow South. He grew up hard. He committed crimes to survive. It was real for him. And then he changed his life, and he decided to change his life. And when he became successful later on in life, he reached back, like a lot of people don't do, and hired individuals who reminded him of himself. They had past crimes they've committed. They were passed over because of racism, and he gave them a second chance.
You mean they were human?
They were human.
Thank you.
They were human. Mm-hmm. And lastly, my mom and dad, they fed the homeless religiously for 10 years every Saturday without fail, missing birthdays, holidays. So you and I were around for all that, and I kind of wanted to distance myself from that. I don't want that because I watched our parents go broke 3 times helping people, watching people turn on them and lie on them, and them forgiving them. I couldn't believe it. I said, I love that. I appreciated that, but that's not for me. But it's amazing how your upbringing shows up later in your life.
You're right. We both ran from it in both of our genres, and it's funny. Both of our books talk about how we ran. We were forced. We ran, but we were forced to come back because their failures was their blessings for our success.
Absolutely,
absolutely. Man. Oh, that's so deep. I'm trying to be a host here, but at the same time, when I talk about our upbringing, forget about it. We just gonna have a conversation. I'm Cleon. That's Deon, my brother. Yep. We gonna roll right now. We about to do it this Joseph style.
Keep it 100.
Okay, so listen, for those of you that your platform will give you your voice. So Officer Joseph became a police officer. He became the popo. If you want to call it negative, he became a cop, right? And his work is influencing the nation and national policy now. So your perfection, your talent is your platform. And now you're speaking all over the country on this very specific issue that's very hot bucking now. And actually two issues, and you're defeating both at the same time. I think you're putting a dent in both at the same time. One is homelessness.
Right.
And mental illness. Please talk about that. Tell us about your work and tell me how the two blend together. And I got another surprise question for you afterwards.
Okay.
Well, I don't put you on the spot.
Well, the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart is mental illness, obviously, because we had many people struggling with mental illness coming through our home.
Yes.
And I watched our parents lovingly nurse them back to health. But society is failing them on a major level. The issue is police aren't failing them, mental health workers aren't failing them, the fire department's not failing them. The system is failing them. America's solution to quote unquote helping the mentally ill is to, in the 70s, close down the asylums and hospitals, which I agree were inhumane, but they could have been fixed.
Right.
And kick them out into the streets in the name of civil liberties and say, yeah, you're free, sprinkle pills on them and say, go and do you. Some of them fell into the loving arms of family members, loved ones who tried to handle them and love them as best they could.
Right.
Others ended up in places like Skid Row, where they end up dumping their prescribed or selling their prescribed medication to self-medicate on the hard stuff like crack cocaine, heroin, and even marijuana and spice, which exacerbated their condition 100-fold to the point that's when they became a police problem. Look, it's not a crime to be paranoid, schizophrenic. It's not a crime to be mentally or bipolar.
Amen.
None of those are crimes. But when those things meet those hard, scheduled narcotics, it could create disasters for them where they attempt suicide, running in front of buses, or even worse, hurt and harm other people. And I'm here to say to America, that is not their fault. It is a systemic failure. We have laws that fail them. Do we really honestly believe we can help somebody who is not only mentally ill, who not only homeless and dealing with trauma, but also dual diagnosed in 72 hours or less? That's absolutely false. When it takes at least 4 to 6 weeks for their prescribed medication to even stabilize them so they can function somewhat normally in society. We're failing them as a society when we do that.
Well, we're talking about failing them, but I want to talk about success. You established, and I beheld witness to some of those programs, as invited, and I appreciate you for allowing me to share in those moments. It was a blessing. I want you to tell me about some of the, because we're human, right?
Absolutely.
Even though you're working in hell and people are living in hell, you've established community success in Skid Row. Let's talk about some of those programs so these young people coming in can understand that you can be effective in law enforcement.
Right. Well, some of the programs, I call it grassroots community policing, and I love sharing this with law enforcement agencies around the country. I love sharing this with college students. I call it grassroots community policing. None of the programs I came up with are from my department. I just happen to work for a wonderful department that gave me the blessing to go forth and prosper in building bridges. And one of the programs I created was Ladies Night. And Ladies Night was a program. Ladies Night was a program where that was created in 2008 in October, but it was birthed in my heart in 1999. Long story short, I was an undercover officer and I was doing a sting operation on sex workers. And I saw this sex worker I've been trying to get for months, and I pull up next to her and I say, hey, can I get a date? And she had been brutally raped. But when I saw it, my heart broke. I didn't want to arrest her. I pulled out my ID and I wanted to help her. But she cursed me out and walked away, fearing that I was either going to arrest her or that she was going to be considered a snitch. So it was birthed in my heart there, but then I didn't know what to do in that capacity. But when I got elevated, I said, I'm going to change things. So many women were coming up to me in Skid Row saying, I'm being touched, I'm being violated in my sleep, I'm being prostituted, I'm being raped. What are you going to do about it? So the best way to help people is sometimes to educate them. So I created Ladies Night, and Ladies Night is simple. I wanted to let these women know that it didn't matter if you were on the pipe, on the pole, a prostitute, on parole, had warrants, or undocumented. You had a fundamental right to come to the police and report rape and sexual assault and domestic violence, and we would not deport you. We won't arrest you for warrants. We won't do any of that. And when we did that, guess what? 3 women who were in the audience that night later were victims of a serial rapist. They would have never came forward, but they came forward because of Ladies Night, and we put that man away because those women felt supported through grassroots community policing approach.
Well, speaking of that, I want to stay on this for a minute because there is a stigma out there with law enforcement that if I'm an illegal immigrant or I've been raped or I'm not of value in my own head, that the police won't do it. In fact, they might arrest me for a warrant if I report a rape. Can you please dispel that myth with the work that you all, not just you, but everybody out there in that area?
Listen, everybody listen, and please, if you know somebody who's undocumented, if you know somebody who's maybe has minor warrants or things of that nature, have them listen to me. We are not going to deport you if you come to us for help.
Amen.
We will not do that. You're a victim, and we want to help get justice. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Come to us, lose your fear, and let us work with you to get you justice. Because my badge, I'm supposed to protect and help everybody. Even if they're here, they're undocumented, I help everybody. And my job is not to add more trauma to a traumatic incident. So yes, you can come to law enforcement. Stop listening to your pimps. Stop listening to these people in the streets telling you not to snitch. Stop listening to advocates who lie to you and gaslight you to keep you away from our help. And please come for help.
You know, you are definitely leading the charge in how law enforcement should go. It is what it is, but you're not the only one.
Absolutely not.
Tell us about the angels around you that are helping you. And you're leading the charge, but you're promoting others to elevate. You know, tell us about your teammates. They're white, they're black, they're gay, they're straight. Tell us about that real quick. Let's get the truth out, y'all. Let's just get it out.
Here's the truth. I am not the only one. I'm the one who got tired of other people driving our narrative. I got tired of other people telling my story based on their political optics, their woke optics, and I said, I'm going to stick my neck out. I'll never forget, I did a news article as an anonymous officer 15 years ago. And because I was an anonymous officer, they were able to twist my words to guide their readers to a certain thought they wanted them to go. After that, I said, never again. I don't care if people cuss me out. I don't care if I get blackballed. I am Officer Deon Joseph from here on out, and I said this. And I started talking about the things we were doing. And the truth is, it wasn't just me. It's just my partners just don't want to come out and say it because they don't want the scrutiny. You know, they don't like it. They don't like the negativity. But we have to be brave, and we have to start telling our stories. But they're white, they're black, they're Hispanic, they're gay, they're straight. Look, I'm the officer I am. So let's stop racism right now and prejudice. I'm the officer I am, not only because of my parents, but because of one white officer named Bill Snowden.
Amen.
He was my third training officer, and he worked in the black community. This is a man who made 2,300 narcotics arrests in that community. You would think the community would want to kill this man. And I'm riding with him going, am I going to die today? And I couldn't believe that I'm riding through the streets and I can hear black people in the community yelling, Snow, how you doing, Snow? Hey, God bless you, Snow. And I'm looking, I'm like, is this guy got people so scared that they love him? I was like, what? And he said, no. He says, Deon, you don't have to be an Adam Henry, and I don't want to say cuss, right? You don't have to be an Adam Henry or a-hole to be a cop. He said, look, the people in our community, this community, understand we have a job to do. All they want us to do is treat them with dignity and respect. Right. And I learned, I don't care if I was dealing with a murderer or someone jaywalking, to treat them with dignity and respect. And that helped me, and that helped my reputation. It helped build on my grassroots efforts later because people trust people who treat them like human beings.
You know, I want you to know that there are thousands. I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of officers that are doing their job. I'll be the first to tell you that law enforcement is not perfect.
No.
But whoever heard of a law firm being perfect? Whoever heard of perfect doctors, nurses, whatever? Microcosm of society. Most of the time, officers are decent people. They just don't come out of the shadows like we do.
Right.
You know, they do their job with pride and they go home.
Right.
You know, white, black, or indifferent. I'm glad we brought that point up. I want to talk about one more program that really touched my heart, the Just Like Me program for youth.
Right.
Talk about that.
Well, that was a program that started in 2006, and what I tried to do was do the boilerplate pandering that a lot of people do. Hey, go out there and build relationships with kids. Okay, well, I'm gonna do some face paintings. I'm gonna do this and this. So I went to the mission and in Skid Row, and one of the great missions, Union Rescue Mission, and I met with some kids there, and I started doing the old soft shoe. Hey, what do you want to do when you grow up, Billy? Oh, I want to play football. Oh, what do you want to do? I want to play basketball. And then while I'm talking, I noticed a 12-year-old beautiful black girl looking out the window, ignoring me, and I took offense to that. I said, hey, ma'am, you want to participate here? What do you want to be when you grow up? And she looked out of the window eastbound, and she looked at me and says, if you guys don't get me and my family out of here, I'm probably going to be like these people I'm looking at right now on the street. That broke my heart. And I had to leave, and my partners had to continue. So when I went to the station, when I see a problem, I don't just sit there and give up. I'm trying to solve it. Who can I bring to these kids who are just like them? Ding, 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 ding. The Just Like You program was there, and I created a program where I went and I poured love into these kids. My message to them when I spoke first was, I love you. I figuratively
Yes.
put down my badge and gun and says, I
Yes.
was you, I love you, and now I have mentors who've been in your predicament. They're foster kids, they've been sexually abused, they've been physically abused, they've been homeless, they've been in foster care, but somehow they turned their lives around and became a success. And that's what the program was about. And matter of fact, the program started taking steam. I got more kids, and then it branched out to where I was doing it in South LA at a school for kids who were in juvenile hall. And you would think these guys would have such a resistance to me. Their teacher said I had their attention for 45 minutes. They couldn't even hold her for 2 because my first message was, I respect you and I love you. I don't even want to know your names. Yeah, but I just want to encourage you. And their grades went up 2 grade levels just because a cop told them he loved them.
I told you all that I'd be bringing answers. You know, all my guests will have answers. All you got to do is listen to the mentorship. The mentorship is in the story. You know what? I don't even want to call you Officer Joe, so I just want to call you Brother Deon. You know, homelessness is a crisis.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you a couple of questions as we get close to winding down, because I do have the questions get bigger as we go. I have some aspirations for you, sir.
Sure.
All right. The Bible says there will always be poor among us.
Absolutely.
So we're never going to solve the homeless problem.
Yes.
But with all the current measures, can you briefly describe in your mind what the answer is, how we can put a dent and make things better for everybody?
Well, I think on 3 levels we can. Obviously, we have to change the laws as it relates to mental health. It should never be 72 hours, especially for somebody struggling with dual diagnosis. It should be 6 weeks to hold them, and here's why. You need to detox them first. If you don't detox them, you're not going to reach them, okay? Second, you need to let their medication stabilize them. Like I said, it takes 4 to 6 weeks for some of their medication if they've been off it for a long time. And then while you're doing that, develop a rapport, and let's streamline the conservatorship process to get them and connect them to their loved ones faster, because now with a 72-hour hold, it's not even 72 hours, it's 6 hours, and they release them, and then by the time their loved ones get to the hospital, they're gone back into the streets in a tent somewhere being violated or destroying themselves. So that's one. Yeah, it costs money, but look at how much money we're wasting doing other things, you know, which is getting lost.
You can speak on it here.
Each one teach one. Which is getting lost in bureaucracy. There's a lot of people getting paid, but ain't nobody getting helped.
Right.
Let's put it like that. And the second solution is this. We have to decentralize services. You know, where I work, there's 108 programs that are there, great programs. The problem is where it's at. How do you get clean when there's a drug dealer not only outside the damn program, but inside the program, raising hell, turning low-income supportive housing services that have wraparound services for the people that live there into drug dens? The people complain to me all the time that they can't change, they can't be helped. Think of your favorite celebrity. We'll make this quick. Your favorite celebrity gets to go to Betty Ford, Malibu, Passages. They get to do yoga. Horses are running around. Why? One of the main tenets is to get away from the temptation. Okay? The environment is everything.
Yes.
We're not allowed to create an environment conducive to change for the people of Skid Row anymore. Sadly, you know, it is what it is. So what we also have to do is not only create that environment, but we also do have to strengthen laws. And I'm not talking putting drug addicts away for 10 years for smoking crack. That's stupid. That's not something I would recommend. There does have to be teeth in the law to bring back mandatory drug programs, because now they're not going to programs because based on the change in laws, they can do what they want to do and they're choosing not to. And also strengthening laws against people who sell drugs in front of or within service providers that are supposed to have anywhere near a shelter, drug program, low-income supportive housing program with wraparound services. You should get a severe penalty for doing that, at least that.
Wow. Wow.
Common sense.
Okay, let's move on. Let's change gears here, because your body of work is unprecedented. It's nationally known. You've been featured on TED. Your platform, your talent, your blessing has been featured on TED Talks, CNN, you name it, you've been on it. But the way you're conducting yourself, I feel it in my spirit, a political career. And I'm not talking about, have you ever thought about running for something when all this police work is all said and done? Briefly, just give it, and then I definitely want to promote you a little bit more.
You know what's funny? For the last 8 months, I've been getting people from tents all the way to, powerful places saying, you need to run for something. And I keep saying no, because politics is so toxic, and I feel like I don't want to sell my soul or lose my integrity. But now as I think about it, one of these days, man, maybe when I retire, or I don't know, I might just lose my mind. I believe right now we need integrity. We need people in places of power who come from a truth-based foundation, not an idealistic or political one, because in my opinion, politics is what created this mess in the first place. I'll make it real quick. You want to know why Skid Row exists? Because of two of the extreme political ideologies. You have the extreme super right, who believes not in my backyard, let's close down the program, let's save money and ship all these people into dangerous places like Skid Row. And then you have the other side who believes, oh, we should just take our hands off and let these people do whatever they want to do because that's all they have. One side creates this sort of, for lack of a better term, asylum without walls that puts these people in danger. And then you have the other side who also puts these people in danger and create an era of lawlessness that gets them killed, causes them to overdose and die on sidewalks, get raped in tents. It's wrong, and I wish I had more time to lay this out.
We're gonna make some more time for you, sir. Listen, there was this book, Stepping Across the Line. He is a published author. Matter of fact, Mom and Dad, we're proud of both of us because we both got books out now.
Both got books out, yeah.
But this gives you a more in-depth look as to what Skid Row, his work is all about. If you want to get, we'll show you how to get that at the end of the show. I just want to tell you how proud I am and how great this book is. There are answers in this book, Stepping Across the Line, man. You're amazing. I guess one of the things, if you had a foregoing thought for yourself as an entrepreneur, as a public speaker, as a person that's elevated their platform, for that person that is looking to elevate their platform, give me a catchphrase. All my guests have to close out with something, and you're naturally brilliant, so I think a brilliant answer is coming. Give us a final thought as I close.
Whatever you do, I don't care if you're a janitor, a law enforcement officer, a politician, a lawyer, your whole goal is to create an environment conducive to positive change in people's lives. So the influence of other wonderful human beings can be stronger than that of those who oppress, repress, and terrorize others and keep them on the endless spiral of addiction and other vices. My main motto in everything I do is this: my badge and my gun and my handcuffs will never ever be the primary means for me to invoke positive change in the lives of the people I contact. My heart, my faith, and my love for mankind will always be my unyielding dogs of war. Create a mantra, live by it, live in truth, change the world.
Guys, if you want to find out more about his work, you can email me at cj.functional@gmail.com. I'll get whatever information we need, because this word the truth needs to get out. And all of my guests in the future will bring you nothing but the truth. I told you, we're dealing with police community relations. We'll be dealing with human trafficking. We'll be dealing with HR and wellness, because that's what I do best, So I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is a mentorship moment. Each one teach one. Remember, we're a village, and we can heal the village, but it's got to be with truth. I don't want any guest on my show that's willing to front. They got to talk about their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you. God bless you, and I will see you in a few weeks.
Make it happen.